Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all an update to my Cardfight Vanguard Chronojet Dragon deck profile for post-generation Dragenesis. We got some new support for the Chronojet deck for the D-Series version of the Stride deck. This deck is completely legal to use in the D format, where the Persona Ride is the main go-to use of fighting against your opponent, but for the Chronojet deck, you utilize the Stride that you can originally do from the G series. With the addition of Chronos Command Dragon, you can now run 12 Strides in your Stride deck for D format, along with some added new support we received for the Chronojet deck. You can also acquire the different cards for the Chronojet deck from the new booster set. So the good majority of the deck can be built straight from that pack, aside from triggers and Sentinels. Actually, you can get the Sentinels from the deck, so just the triggers and some other additional cards are needed to complete the deck. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the actual ride deck, we do still have the energy generator, with our grade 0 being Chronodron. The grade 1 is Mazer Gear Dragon. When it's placed by riding from Chronodron, you draw a card, and you get a Chronojet Dragon crest, with the Chronojet Dragon crest allowing you to stride and also set up your Chronojet Dragon with a 13k body, and also with this card being able to increase the power of one of your grade 3 or greater rear guards, and increase or decrease it to grade 0 till end of turn, and getting additional power for each face-up card in your G zone. With our grade 2 being Smoke Gear Dragon, when it's rode upon by a grade 3 with Chronojet, you can Soul Blast 1, search your deck for up to one grade 3 unit card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. So just more search power in the form of this grade 2, with our main go-to grade 3 being Chronojet Dragon. This is the original Chronojet that was released during G series, but it can be used in this format as well, this specific Chronojet Dragon. So we are running the copy in the ride deck. For the Stride deck, which we'll go over before the main deck, we're running 4 copies of the new Interdimensional Dragon, Chronos Command Dragon. With the Stride step, you choose one or more cards from your hand with the sum of their grades being 3 or greater. Discard them and stride this card onto your Vanguard from face down. And on the Vanguard circle, Generation Break 3 once per turn. Count +1. Your opponent puts all their rear guards on the bottom of the deck in any order. You choose one of your rear guards, and it gets on rear guard at the end of the battle this unit attacked. Put this unit on the bottom of the deck. Search your deck for up to one card with grade +1 of this card called to rear guard, and that unit gets +5 until end of turn for each face-up interdimensional Chronos Command Dragon in your G zone until end of turn. So not only does it have the spin power of the original Chronos Command Dragon, it also just has additional setup for you to be able to time leap a unit on the rear guard circle for grade +1 with additional power the longer you use, and also have the setup for the flipped up Chronos Command Dragons in your Stride zone. We're also running the 4 copies of Chrono Dragon Next Stage, needing to discard a card with Chronojet to stride into this card, and also Generation Break 2 at the end of the battle. This unit attacked a Vanguard. You can counter +1, discard 2 cards, put this unit into your G zone face up, choose one of your Vanguards with Chronojet, and stand it. So more restood power as well, thanks to this card being able to just go right into Chronojet for a second attack after this Stride attacks as well. With the final Stride that we run in the Stride zone being 4 copies of Interdimensional Dragon, Fate Rider Dragon, being able to once again choose a card from your hand with the sum being grade 3 or greater and discard it and stride, and when it attacks you can counter +1 and turn a face-up card from your G zone face up, meaning this is another faster way to turn up your Chronos Command Dragons for you to make use of as well. And then search your deck for up to one card with grade +1 of the card put on the bottom of the deck for this card. Call it to rear guard, choose one of your units, and gets +5 for each face-up card in your G zone, being more of a generic option for Chronos Command, but still being able to easily set it up for your following turns as well. For the main deck, we are running the 2 copies of Chronojet Dragon. Additionally, this card can be searched with our ride deck options, so you only need the 2 copies because you're just going to use these cards for the added stride power of going into Chrono Dragon Next Stage when you need them. There are some other good grade 3s that we can utilize for that added stride step, including the added playstyle of Steam Fighter Bullet. With this card, when it's discarded from hand for the cost of stride, you draw a card. So when you stride with this card, you also make up for the discard. And on rear guard, Generation Break 2, during turn, if any player's rear guards were put on the bottom of the deck this turn, he gets plus 10,000 power. So added power on top of the additional power that your crest could provide for your rear guards as well. And then lastly, for the grade 3s, 2 copies of Soul Funeral Dragon Nocturzio. When it's placed on rear guard or put on the guard circle, choose up to 1 grade 4 card from your hand, reveal it. If you reveal a card in your hand, or your Vanguard is grade 4, perform one of the following according to the circle. If it's on the rear guard, counter +1, draw a card, choose 2 cards from your drop, and put them into your soul. Or on the guard circle gets plus 15. And also additionally, when it's discarded from hand while riding from a grade 3 from the ride deck or to pay the cost for stride, draw a card. So draw power on top of just the additional guard setup, since you can have your Vanguard for the grade 4 or choose 1 grade 4 from your hand for that setup when you place it on rear guard, or just discarding it for the stride cost. For the grade 2s, we're running 4 copies of the new Glimmer Breath Dragon. Now, there are 2 cards that I do not have in the deck, just based on the fact that they're extremely expensive right now. That being Tizkar, the grade 2 discard cost for Energy Blast option for drawing into cards, or the added option of Clockwise Dragon, an additional grade 1, which I think each card is, averaging $30 to $40 a copy. So just adding an additional $300 for one deck. If you have the cards, I'll show you what cards you can take out for those copies of the grade 1s and 2s. But before we get to that, Glimmer Breath Dragon is a new card from set 6 for the deck. When it's placed on rear guard, if you have a Chronojet Dragon crest, counter +1, draw a card. If your Vanguard's grade 3 or greater, it gets +5. And Generation Break 3, when this unit attacks, it gets +10 till end of that battle. Added search power and draw power to just set up one of the better cards to call out with your time leap ability of your different stride units. And also 3 copies of the new grade 2 Time Flyer Dragon. With this card on rear guard, when your grade 3 or greater Vanguard attacks, it gets +5 to end of turn. If your Vanguard attacked 2 or more times, choose one of your Vanguards and it gets +5 to end of turn, adding additional power on top of your Vanguard's own power that it could potentially get after it attacks, as next stage, being able to then attack again with Chronojet Dragon for added power on top of it, thanks to Time Flyer Dragon. And also the 3 copies of Upstream Dragon. When it attacks a Vanguard, it gets +5 power till the end of the battle. At the end of the battle, put it on the bottom of the deck. Search your deck for up to 1 grade 1. Call it to back row rear guard and shuffle your deck. So just being able to ideally set up other additional cards for us to use in the deck for our Upstream Dragon after it attacks. And the 3 copies of Eerie Fixer Dragon. Now, this is just an additional card that can be called out when discarded from hand. So if you have to pay the cost for stride, you can use this card as just a resource to grab back onto the field. If you have your Tizkars, they can always be replaced for this spot in the deck instead. With our grade 1s, we're running 3 copies of Steam Breath Dragon, being able to pay the cost for stride with just this card alone. Or if you have Chronojet Dragon, discard this card, search your deck for up to 1 grade 3 Chronojet, and add it to your hand. So just consistency for adding the Chronojet when you need it using your Steam Breath Dragon. We're also running the 3 copies of Steam Skara Gigi. When it's placed on rear guard, if you have a Chronojet Dragon crest, Soul Blast 2, draw a card. If it's placed by your card's ability, it gets +5 as well. So if you call it off of Upstream, you'll have the draw power and the additional +5 that you can get with Gigi as the go-to card to call off of Upstream Dragon. And also the 2 copies of Gearsaro Magnetic Resonance for the added boost in intercept power from the back row. If you have your Clockwise Dragon, you can drop down the copy of Gigi and the 2 Resonance for the additional numbers of that grade 1 from the Festival Booster to add into the deck. With the last of our grade 1s being the 1 copy of Purple Jeweled Beast Amethyst for the added countercharge power or additional 15k shield by just putting cards back into our ride deck. And for the Sentinel lineup, the 1 copy of Elementaria Sanctitude and the 3 copies of Steam Maiden Arlim, with the Regalis piece in the deck of choice being the Radiance Caliburn for the added option of being able to perform either a draw 2 or putting into the soul to countercharge 1. With our trigger lineup being the 7 critical for the added pressure on top of our Vanguard when it attacks and the added pressure to our rear guard circles. The 4 front triggers because we really don't need draws in the deck, just the added pressure that we can keep stacking numbers to our front row. So the 4 Diablos Girls Natalia, with our heels being the 4 copies of Direful Doll Alexandra, just for the generic option there, and the overtrigger of choice being the Spiritual King of Ignition Valnute for the final spot for the trigger lineup. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. Once again, just take into account the replacement spots for the Tizcars or the Clockwise Dragons if you wanted to run those cards in the deck. And until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Qualia out.